Hey everybody, welcome to the latest edition of Browns Thoughts here on the Off the Mic Sports Network. So a lot of blame going around in the Browns fan base after this loss to the Giants in a 1-2 start to the season as they head to Las Vegas on Sunday. For what should be a really interesting game, two teams coming off of really just disheartening losses to two of the worst teams in football. So this is going to be interesting to see who picks themselves up off the mat. But it's no secret. I have, really exhausted a lot of my time on this channel talking about how I think the Browns just need to move on from Deshaun Watson. And I think that he is the source of a lot of the problems with this football team. And it's caused a lot of, debate on the internet, who's the most to blame for what's going on. But one weird take that I was seeing in the last couple of days has been, man, this is on Kevin Stefanski. And on some level, I could understand, hey, you got to blame the coach. But if you actually take a look at this whole situation and reevaluate everything that has transpired within the last, 6 to 9 months, maybe close to a year, if you want to blame Kevin Stefanski for what's going on with the Cleveland Browns, you are a fucking delusional moron, because this is just... what is Kevin Stefanski supposed to do? The organization, the owner, meddled in football business yet again, paid a guy and traded for a guy who hadn't played in a year, was going to get suspended, had an unlimited amount of baggage, and he has come back rusty. He has been injured. He's been in and out of the lineup. And the biggest evidence that you need to know is that Kevin Stefanski last year, with 5 starting quarterbacks, were able to move the ball better than they are this year. P.J. Walker, same game in Indianapolis, was able to win a game in Indianapolis. Yes, there was some, weird officiating at the end of that, if you guys remember that. But Kevin Stefanski won with P.J. Walker. He won with Dorian Thompson-Robinson. He won with Joe Flacco coming off of his couch and looking like Super Bowl MVP Joe Flacco. He threw for 300 yards in 5 games. Everybody's like, well, he threw a bunch of interceptions. Oh, guess what? He won a bunch of games. And Kevin Stefanski has been to the playoffs 2 of the 4 seasons that he has been in the NFL. He has won Coach of the Year in both of those seasons. And you look at where this team was last year. The system was working. They win 11 games. They go to the playoffs. Yeah, they had a clunker against Houston in the playoff game because C.J. Stroud, and it just, the magic ran out. But that's higher than this organization has been in a really long time. The Browns have struggled with coaches. Let me count you for this. So since the Haslam ownership, they had, which was around 2011, 2012, they've had Pat Shurmur, Rob Chudzinski, Mike Pettin, Hugh Jackson, Greg Williams was an interim, Freddie Kitchens, and now Kevin Stefanski. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 coaches under the Haslam regime. 7. And I'll count this off on my hand. I think Kevin Stefanski, out of all 7 of those coaches, has already cleared them in wins. He's got 37. He's now in his 5th season. 37-30. The highest win total of any of those coaches that I mentioned was Mike Pettin, who had 10. And the most in this old regime of this new regime of Cleveland Browns coaches, the most is a tie for second at 24 with Romeo Crennel and Butch Davis. Those guys both won 24 games. That's the most behind. Kevin Stefanski in 4 seasons, has already cleared any other coach in the 25 years in the rebirth of this Cleveland Browns franchise. He's won more games as the Browns head coach than Bill Belichick. Yes, that Bill Belichick, seemingly the greatest head coach of all time. That's not by accident. This is not on Kevin Stefanski why this team stinks. You want to know what happened that led to all of this, turmoil and all of this, terrible offense and terrible offensive line play? They have overhauled the entire offensive staff to fit every single and try to cover up every single flaw in Deshaun Watson's game. Because apparently, even though you get paid $230 million and get paid like a superstar quarterback, you need to have a bunch of excuses built in. This is why I refuse to hear from anybody who wants to defend Deshaun Watson because the offensive line play was bad. You want to know why the offensive line play was bad? This offensive system sucks. And that's not on Kevin Stefanski because they wanted to, have a change in how they managed this offense for Deshaun Watson because the scheme, whatever it was, wasn't going to work for Deshaun. And they had to get rid of Alex Van Pelt, which was a mistake, by the way. Because Alex Van Pelt was really good, even though he wasn't the designated play caller. He was a huge influence, and you saw that this offense works for virtually every other quarterback not named Deshaun Watson. Joe Flacco it worked for. PJ Walker it worked for. It worked for Dorian Thompson-Robinson, a fucking 5th-round pick. Hell, it worked for Jeff Driscoll. But it doesn't work for Deshaun Watson, so we have to change everything. And then for the first 3 games of this season, you could see as clear as day, this offense is broken. There is no cohesiveness. The pass blocking schemes don't mesh up with what the actual offense and the route concepts, and Deshaun is not making good decisions when he's given the opportunity to. And I don't want to hear that, hey, he had a really nice pass to Cedric Tillman that was dropped. Why don't you do that during the rest of the game and not have to rely on a 4th down pass in a game against the New York Giants at home to win a football game? I am not going to hear it from any other fans that want to blame Kevin Stefanski and want to blame everybody else but Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson is the source of virtually every single problem with this team because the defense really doesn't have a whole hell of a lot of confidence in him because they're on the field the whole time. And when they're on the field, they're celebrating goofy ass shit when a flag's on the ground. And yeah, Kevin Stefanski do his teams need to be a little bit more disciplined? Yeah. But I think this guy has earned the benefit of the doubt for being a 2-time coach of the year, winning more games than any other coach in the history of this rebirth of this franchise the last 25 years. He's won more, and he's won more games than the combined total of the other coaches that preceded him under Jimmy Haslam. This is not a Kevin Stefanski problem. This is a Deshaun Watson problem. I will continue to say that, and people who want to just, trot out these narratives that it's somehow Kevin Stefanski's fault that, they changed offenses. I'm certain that came from Paul DePodesta, and that came from, up top and Jimmy Haslam. Hey, let's make the offense work for Deshaun. Because here's the other ironic thing about this. And I know Ken Dorsey was a former Browns quarterback, but he wasn't very good. But Ken Dorsey got fired by the Buffalo Bills, and the Bills got better. They have Josh Allen, and Josh Allen's playing the best football of his career since Ken Dorsey left. What the fuck are we doing? We hired Ken Dorsey, and the offense has gotten worse. They don't run the ball. They refuse to run the ball. Deshaun Watson makes terrible decisions with the football. He holds on to it way too long. And the offensive line is not built to stand up in pass protection to this level. That's why you're seeing this offensive line play not be as good. This is not a Bill Callahan thing. Although that being said, I wish that the offensive line would be better and it'd be better coached. And there's some issues that have been showing up there. But a lot of this is just scheme-based, and this is just offense-based. And they changed virtually everything, and Kevin Stefanski has gone against virtually everything that he normally does as a coach when they have to go off script. When he's on script, you've seen it. They've scored opening drive touchdowns in the last 2 games. But the rest of the game, the last 2 weeks, managed 9 points against Jacksonville and 8 points against the Giants. And they are 1-1 in those games. And they were lucky. They are lucky that they got out of there with a win in Jacksonville, but they didn't get a win against the Giants. But this isn't on Kevin Stefanski. I kind of had a laugh, and another reason why I'm doing this video is because I kind of had a laugh. Social media, I can't even remember who it was. They posted up a graphic of who's going to be the first coach fired. Zach Taylor was nowhere to be found on this graphic, but somehow Kevin Stefanski's on there. I was like, excuse me. I know Zach Taylor's been to a Super Bowl, but it damn sure wasn't because of him. It was because he's got Joe Burrow as his fucking quarterback. Like, that's the reverse of this situation. Kevin Stefanski's a good coach. He is a terrible quarterback. Zach Taylor's got a great quarterback. He's a terrible head coach. So, I don't understand where this narrative's coming from that Kevin Stefanski is the source of a lot of the issues. Just because he's the head coach doesn't mean he's at fault for all of what's going on here. They changed everything, and they tried to make everything work for Deshaun Watson. And because he has that contract number, that $230 million fully guaranteed next to his name, fair or not, he has to be judged to a higher standard. And this bullshit that has been going on with him missing easy checkdowns, missing layups on fourth downs, costing them possessions. Guys, it shouldn't have come to the Cedric Tillman drop. It shouldn't have come to the Jerome Ford fumble. Like, the Browns should have blown this team out. They were favored by 6.5. This should have been a runaway. And especially with the way the game started 11 seconds in, you're already up 7-0. There's no excuse for it. Deshaun should not have any excuses whatsoever. And Kevin Stefanski, that's not saying that he doesn't deserve some of the blame here, but to act like this is all his fault and he doesn't know how to utilize Deshaun Watson. He's been trying to figure out how to utilize Deshaun Watson for 3 years now. Deshaun Watson's not available. He's not healthy. He sucks. I keep saying it. Like, rip the Band-Aid off and give Jameis Winston a shot. I wouldn't be surprised if Jameis Winston was better in this offense. And they went back to some of the Kevin Stefanski core principles. At a certain point, you're going to have to get rid of Ken Dorsey because he's the scapegoat in all of this. You're not firing Kevin Stefanski. He's won 2 Coach of the Years and went to the playoffs twice. That's 2 more times than they had went the previous, 25 years. They went to the playoffs in 2002. And then they hadn't been to the playoffs until 2020. So twice as many as they had in the previous 2 decades, Kevin Stefanski. And he's already won as many games as any coach in the new Cleveland Browns era. And also more games than the combined total of all of his predecessors that were hired by Jimmy Haslam. And what else do you need to know? He's won more games as a Cleveland Browns head coach than Bill Belichick. I understand Bill Belichick wasn't what he was with the Browns, but he was still a damn good coach. Stop blaming Kevin Stefanski. It's a dumb, stupid narrative. Please stop. All right, we'll probably have more Browns thoughts later in the week. I got to preview this game against the Raiders because it's going to be an interesting game. And also, I'm terrified to death of going to Washington now based off of what I saw on Monday night against the Commanders. Jaden Daniels is the truth, people. So like, share, and subscribe. Off the Mic 28 on Twitter, OT Mike Sports on Twitter as well. We'll have a Mad Sports Show coming to you on Wednesday. Very excited to do that with my boys Andrew Marks and Danny Udelf. They'll probably have some thoughts. Andrew's going to be going crazy over the Cowboys. And Danny's probably going to go equally as crazy over the Steelers because the Steelers are somehow 3-0. No offense whatsoever. The Browns have no offense whatsoever. I don't know what the fuck's going on in the NFL. So anyway, I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.